So Nick, with a great start to the season on the field, there must be a really good working environment here in the York City office.
Well, there's no doubt about it that an unbeaten start to the season, is particularly against some difficult teams, has really put everybody on a high to begin the season. And it makes the working environment much more pleasant when everybody's up there and smiling, and just like the supporters really, you know, we live and breathe what happens here, and it means a great deal to us.
The office staff here is some of the club's unsung heroes. A lot goes on behind the scenes. But there does seem to be quite a small number of staff here. So how do they manage to cope with the day-to-day problems of the club with such few staff?
Well, in short, we work very hard, or at least my staff work very hard. I've got a small band of very dedicated people behind me that are prepared to give 100% of the time, and they'll also give a lot of their own spare time as well. There's the day-to-day things to be done in the office, but then they'll go home and they'll wash kit as well and things like that, and you know, I've got some very dedicated people working with me.
This season I noticed in the matchday programme you have your own secretary's diary. Now, is the thinking behind that because you feel that you want the supporters to know exactly what goes on and what you do day to day, or do you think it really matters if they know or not?
Well, when I got the job almost a year ago now of being secretary for the football club, I was quite excited and interested as to all the things that actually went on behind the scenes that the supporters don't know about, and I just thought it would be nice just to try and tell people a little bit more. I hope they find it interesting to know what the pattern of work is for the players, when they train, when they don't train, when they set off to a game, where they stay and what the routine is before the match, so that they can understand that it is, in many cases, a 7-day-a-week job, and they can see actually what's involved. And also it gives me the opportunity to tell them a few things about other things that are going on with the club and around the ground and so on as well. So I'm just trying to put the information out there for people.
We know about the successful start on the field. Are off the field matters running as smoothly as you'd like?
It can always be improved, and we had a long way to come, because one of the problems with the history of what's happened to the football club over the past few years is that a lot of what was happening in the football club stopped and stood still, and over a period of time that causes damage, and that damage has to be repaired. What we're in the process of doing now is looking at each area of the club and saying, right, what do we do now to get it livened up, moving forward and active again, so that it's performing to its full potential.
Let's think about attendances, because something which with season ticket sales is something which the staff are involved in. They seem to be reasonably healthy in the first couple of games, but perhaps not as high as the team would deserve for the quality of football on offer. Do you think this current season ticket regime of cheap tickets for children and things like that, do you think that's paid off?
I think that we're relatively happy that we've got the ticketing situation right. We would always like more people in the ground. If we were pushing 4,000 every game, we'd all be extremely happy. The reality is, of course, that the start of the season falls in August. There's still school holidays, there's still a lot of people away on holiday, and it's early in the season. There'll be a lot of people that were sitting and waiting, seeing what's happening before they decide whether to make a commitment and perhaps buy a mini-season ticket for 10 games later on in the season.
As a conference club, one of the big struggles is to keep certain standards that we used to have as a Football League club. One thing which a lot of the fans have been discussing is about this new rule where people are not allowed to leave the ground at half time. And many conspiracy theorists have tried to figure out why. Could you tell us exactly why?
Well, without doubt, the most difficult and controversial decision I've had to take since I got the job, one that a great deal of discussion went into, and it's quite a lengthy explanation. It all started really with the inspection by the Football League last spring, because we were in with a chance of getting into the playoffs and therefore could have been promoted back to the Football League. In order for that to happen, our ground has to be up to Football League standard. Now, there's a peculiar irony here that if you're in the Football League and you fall below standard, you probably get away with it. If you drop out of the league and want to go back in, then you have to meet the standard again. And one of the things that I'm sure most supporters will realise if they think about the number of other football grounds that they go to around the country of Football League level is that football supporters are not allowed out of the ground en masse at half time. It had been allowed to happen here because of the position of the catering huts in the ground. But the Football League told us that we had to stop doing that because it's very difficult to control the number of people and to make sure that the number of people that went out are the same as the number of people that come back in. So the Football League said, you've got to stop doing this. You've got to find an alternative way to supply catering to people, which is why we put the extra catering hut on the inside of the ground. And that was also put at the end near the Longhurst stand because there was only one catering point in the Longhurst stand, which was inadequate in the eyes of the Football League to service perhaps 3,000 people if we got a big attendance. And if you think about it, you know, one kiosk certainly couldn't cope with the number of people going to it at half time. So once that had been established at the beginning of this season, we realised that we have to start complying with Football League standards now. And that's because the Football League are going to be extremely picky this season about the quality of grounds when clubs get promoted. That's a fallout from Accrington and Hereford going up last season. They got back in the league, we're told, by the skin of their teeth. And if anybody that's watching and went to Accrington, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So we've got to be up to standard now. The conference have already started inspecting grounds. We've already been inspected to make sure that we're beginning to comply with Football League regulations so that if good things happen at the end of the season, fingers crossed, then we're ready for it. And I am sorry that the fans have been put to some inconvenience because I realise that it does in some way diminish the enjoyment of a match day. I just hope that what they see on the field makes up for it.
Another issue which conference clubs often struggle with is maintaining a reserve and youth setup, and that's something which Football League clubs have. Now we've lost quite a lot of funding for that. How big a struggle is that, and how important is it for us really ultimately to get out of the conference in order to restore that kind of reputation that we had of being a really well set up club?
The finances are obviously at the heart of everything that we do. It is very difficult for us to maintain the present structure. I think we can continue to do it for the foreseeable future, but if we can't get back out of the conference, then we're going to have to change things in possibly 3 to 5 years. We are at the moment totally committed to continuing with a Football League structure. Our income has dropped since we came out of the conference by about a third. I believe that we will report a loss at the end of the current financial year. But we have plans in place to take us through that in the hope that we can get promoted, get back to the Football League, and then we can get things back on the footing as they were before.
Finally, Nick, one last question. When we think about all the things we've discussed, what do you think your biggest challenge as Club Secretary will be this season?
Well, I mentioned earlier about we're examining various areas of the football club and saying what do we need to do now to improve these, and I think that's probably our biggest challenge for the rest of this season. Is to sort of look at every part of the club, whether it be the social club or football in the community or junior reds or the youth setup or whatever, and say, right, this is where we are now, where do we want to get it to and how do we get there? That's a mammoth task because every area of the football club can be improved. We'll take each one at a time and try and drive it forward.
Well, keep up the good work and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.